So my goal today is to use Kelvin color temperature. Now, I don't know if you ever use Kelvin. You just dial in the exact number. And with the Rotolights, I have the Aeos, the original one here, and the Neo 3s on either side, and I dialed them to 5500K. Put the camera at 5500K, and I even put the video camera at 5500K. Should be interesting to see how the Nikon does comparison to the Leica. But I'm setting up for a shoot, and I really want to use the constant lights, not a flash, and see how it does. So I'm pre-gaming this with my silver head here to see how it looks, to see what the images look like prior to the person coming in, and I'll go from there. The backlights are lighting the backdrop and giving spill on the subject, and I could just easily turn these away from or closer, and you can see the change right there. But we'll see how it does and prepare for the shoot that I have coming in. So I just wanted to do a couple shots to see how it looks. And I'm going to be shooting at 1.4 on the Leica because I really want to take advantage of this lens, the Summilux-50. And see where it goes from flash compared to. So at 1.4, I'm at ISO 64, 1/320th of a second, and I'm at 1.4. And again, Kelvin is. So I'm really loving these numbers, like loving them. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get full coverage with just one Aeos in the front, so, if I'm looking to get a full body shot, it's going to drop off pretty quickly. But it'll give me a starting point and give me an idea what this looks like, which I'm looking forward to seeing. And straight out of camera, I'm thinking I'm matching pretty good on that background, and the colors seem great. So let me back up and do an overall of this. Now, I keep trying these Rotolight Neos. I just did the update, their firmware update. I still have a problem connecting, which is kind of strange. I'm at 43% power in this one. I'm not even at full power. Wow, there is a difference. I'm at 100% power on this one. The fans are pretty loud on these Neos, which surprised me, but I guess they have to be for what kind of power they're putting out in that small little light. Wow, that pumping up that to 100% made a pretty big difference. But I'm going to go down to F2 to see what I'm looking like. So at F2, I went up to ISO 100, 2/50th of a second. That's really not too bad, honestly. I'm kind of impressed. And this is the old Aeos. So let's take a look at them in Lightroom and see what we have, and then we'll get to our regular shoot.
Well, the first two, they were set on auto white balance. So auto white balance on the Leica, this is what it's given me. Now, white balance for Leica has never been a strong point for the auto. And even if I'm using the gray head, it's still off compared to the actual. So this is the actual Kelvin temperature that I set to match the lights. And that is really, really close. But even the Lightroom white balance selector from the gray head, silver head, if you will. I mean, granted, it's not exactly neutral gray, but it's pretty darn close. But this is the 5500 Kelvin, and it looks fantastic. So, setting your Kelvin temperature exact is so much better than auto white balance or even using a gray card half the time Now, if you're using the full uh, color chart, that helps quite a bit in Lightroom, the X-Rite or something like that. But anyway, so getting right into the shoot, um, the original Aeos is probably less power than those Neo 3s, believe it or not, but it's working. So, and I'm thinking the Aeos 2 or the Aeos 2 Pro is going to give me the light that I want, the power that I want. And, arching that down just a little bit more would give me a little bit more coverage on the bottom. Or I can use this second Aeos, the original Aeos, as an uplight or a fill light for the bottom half, and then the Aeos 2 or Aeos 2 Pro for the top. But I was getting pretty good numbers off this. I set the ISO to auto because I wanted to see what the changes were for the coats without thinking about it. For an actual shoot, I would never do this. Now, this is just a test shoot for, these jackets are for the company's next fall line. So we're preparing for the shoot for that lookbook. This was the original owner and still owner of the company, who wanted to come in just to see the coat line, because these are samples. These aren't the actual coats themselves. Everything starts off as a sample and we go from there. Anyway, and it gave me the opportunity to use these lights as well, even more. I love that I can just swap those colors out. The problem with them, obviously, is I still can't connect correctly to the app, even though I updated to their new firmware, which is version 3, I think. I don't know what it is, but I had to do a little bit more research on it rather than dumping on the company and bitching about their app to start. But, when I was using them, it was strange. Like, I would be able to touch one of them when they did work, but the other one would disconnect. Like, they don't all connect at once. Like, when you're using Profoto, I'm not sure about Godox, but I'm sure it's the same way. But if you have like 3 lights set up, it's just instant. You just touch it and you can go from one to the other to the other. This seems that it has to disconnect from one to connect to the other, and then you change the light. It's kind of weird, but again, probably need more research before I make judgment on the issues or problems with it. Anyway, getting back to the shoot. So playing with these lights and using the colors, it was kind of cool. I like the output. The face light looked a little warm on that one, and it could be just a blending of the blues and the 5500 Kelvin off the straight one. These I put just a touch warmer on the back Neos. So the green's going to pull out just a little bit from the backdrop, go a little bit more towards yellow. But this kind of control is great. And I went from ISO or aperture from like 1.4 to 2, and then I tried 2.8. And I think, I topped out at like ISO 250 when I went to 2 to 2.8. So it wasn't bad, but to use this for an actual clothing shoot, it just wouldn't work because I don't have the depth of field I need for the clothing company. They're going to want more, straight out, because they're printing these and they want to see the texture of the clothing. They want to be able to zoom in. But for regular shoots, for portraits and so forth, if I can get, a 2.8 to 4 out of the new Aeos, and with the Neos, as backlights and gelled lights, if you would, I think it would be a lot of fun and really beneficial, especially, shooting the Leica M11. I would prefer just to shoot the camera as is rather than throwing a remote on top of it for a strobe for some of the shoots. So I'm going to keep giving these a genuinely fair shake until I get there. Now, I did order the Neo 3 Pro because I want to try these things in the strobe before I order the big Aeos 2 Pro. And I really want to see how they mix with Profoto, because the new Pro units, you can use the Godox remote, you can use the Profoto remote, or you can use the Chrome Skyport. So it adds a whole bunch of remotes on that we didn't have before, which to me is really exciting, because if I can mix the two and have that gelled lighting without the gels, it would be fabulous. At the end, I'm going to like throw up a strobe and just use one of the Aeos, for a fill, just to see how that is. But, if it's going to give me an extra stop of light when these things are in strobe mode, I think it would be fantastic. Now, he's nitpicking at the coat because he's literally looking at these samples going, what do I have to fix next? Before the final production, and that's why he takes so long with that. Anyway, I'm using a straight backlight on this now, and I'm pulling the one Aeos up, or one Neo up, just to add more light into the front, and get more of the coat lit. And it worked out pretty well, but the problem with this is the model has very limited movement now because of that backlight. Because she moves a little bit too far to the left or too far to the right, obviously you're going to see the light or see the stand, and then you're going to have to take it out in post, which who the hell wants to spend that much time in post? But like I said, for a portrait session, or for that kind of session where I'm just shooting one-offs, it's kind of nice, and it gives a nice spot. I am getting a shadow, but that's from the Neo, from up front. Now I'm switching over to the Profoto A2, so basically a speed light with a grid, because I want to use the Neo 3 just one to see how it would do with a fill. And this isn't very powerful light, so they may mix well. And especially when I get the Pro unit, if it strobes with the A2, it may give me enough power to actually fill a lot better and to, create more looks with that. But you can see at the bottom of the coat there, it did fill nicely. It worked fine. Anyway, that was my shoot for the day. I just wanted to share with you. Try the Kelvin temperature, dialing in your Kelvin temperature when you're shooting it. It does work fantastic. And if you have any questions, leave them below. And thanks for watching, as always.